last part of your inequality section deals with absolute values. So you have your absolute values rules written here. First of all, make sure that in your problems you have an absolute value before you do these fancy rules. So sometimes people just get flip happy and they do all the fancy rules. The only time you're doing these fancy rules is if you have absolute value. Okay, so my first one I give you is 2x plus 3 and absolute value is less than or equal to 9. Let me write it a little bigger. What the rule tells you to do is if you have an absolute value less than, you sandwich. So 2x plus 3 is going to sandwich between 9 and negative 9. And your answer is actually going to look like a sandwich with a piece of bread, and some stuff in the middle. One little sandwich. So the way that you work this one out is you'll move the 3 in the middle, which means you move it on the right and move it on the left. So negative 12 is less than or equal to 2x, which is less than or equal to 6. Then you'll divide both sides, all three sides rather, by 2. So you get that negative 6 is less than or equal to x, which is less than or equal to 3. Well, in interval notation, you're going to write from left to right, which would be lowest to highest. So you're going to get negative 6 to 3. You'll have a bracket on the negative 6 end and a bracket on the negative 3 end. A bracket on the 3 end. And that's what I meant by it looks like a sandwich. With a piece of bread on the left, that's this bracket, and a piece of bread on the right, that's that bracket, and some stuff in the middle. So an absolute value less than makes a sandwich. Okay, your other one's a little more complicated. First of all, I recognize it has absolute value bars. The rule for this one says break into 2 pieces. So you're going to take 5x minus 6 and set it greater than 16. You're also going to take 5x minus 6 and over here you're going to flip it and change it. So when you make it a negative 16, you flip it and change it. Now that's the hardest part, is knowing the rules. So an absolute value greater than, you break into 2 pieces, and on the second side you flip it and change it. So I'm going to add 6 to both sides here. And so 5x would be greater than 22. I'll divide by 5. And x is greater than 22/5. Sometimes you will get some ugly numbers. I'll solve this one out as well. I'll add 6 to both sides. So 5x is less than negative 10. I'll divide both sides by 5. 5 is a positive number, no flipping. And x is less than negative 2. So if we wrote this in interval notation, or drew it out, 22/5 we'll put here. It's a little bit more than 4. From the 22/5 I notice I'm shading in this direction because it's greater than 22/5. Okay, let me also put my negative 2 on the number line. From negative 2 you see it's pointing towards this left way. Numbers less than negative 2 would look like this one. So writing your answer in interval notation, it would start at negative infinity and go to negative 2. Now you'll notice the negative 2 doesn't have a bar under it, so this lets me know this one's going to use parentheses. I'll also pick back up on the green side, and it would start at 22/5, and it would go to infinity, and the 22/5 also uses parentheses. We put a U in there to represent or. So this is what our answer would look like in the red. So that's what I mean by it has 2 pieces. Now one of the things I wanted to point out is the only thing that the equal to would do is give you brackets. So going back to this first one here, if this problem had been just less than 9, it still would have been a sandwich, but it would have been a sandwich with parentheses. looking back at this this one over here on, we'll call it the yellow side, if this had been a greater than or equal to, it still would have been two pieces. It just would have been two pieces with a bracket. Now you're going to see this in a multiple choice form. So I wanted to go over it with you in multiple choice form. So up here I have x minus 6 is less than 4. Now the first thing I want to point out is less than means that you're going to have parentheses. So as soon as I know that I have parentheses for this answer, I know I can throw out choice B. The other thing that I know is I told you earlier that if you had a less than means it was going to be one sandwich. Well, C has two sandwiches, so that's not it. So it's either A or D by process of elimination. See if I can make my pen write a little better. There we go. So the way that we work this one, the formal way, is we take x minus 6 and we sandwich it between 4 and negative 4. I'm going to add 6 to all three pieces, and I get that 2 is less than x, which is less than 10. So in interval notation, it would go from 2 to 10 with parentheses, and so my answer would be D. Okay, let's try one more of those and then we'll be done. Okay, for this one, you'll have to forgive that it has a 12 there. I picked it from an old test. So you have 2x minus 1 is greater than or equal to 13. Well, first of all, I recognize that greater than or equal to means I'm going to have a bracket. So that means D can't be my answer because that doesn't have a bracket. Now sometimes your multiple choice is easy. Like this one will be pretty easy if you remember my hints I gave you. An absolute value greater than has two pieces. Well, the only one that has two pieces is this answer A, so that's going to be your answer for that one. Sometimes you can use multiple choice hints to actually solve them out. Now, let me write it out the formal way and then we'll be done. So if you have an absolute value greater than, you write it as it appears. And then in the second one, you flip it and change it. So I'm going to add 1 to both sides here. And 2x would be greater than or equal to 14. So x would be greater than or equal to 7. I'll add 1 to both sides here. So 2x is less than or equal to a negative 12. So x is less than or equal to a negative 6. When you put them on the number line, here's 7. Change the color up a little. Here's 7. You'll see it's pointing towards the right because it's greater than 7. Here's negative 6 somewhere out here. You'll see this orange one is pointing towards the left. That's how it looks. So when you get ready to write your answer, it would be from negative infinity to negative 6. Remember, negative 6 takes a bracket. Then the green area would start at 7 and go 7 to infinity, and the 7 takes a bracket, and you would have a U in the middle for union, and that would be your letter A answer there.